Hey, everybody. I love when it says you are live. Thank you very much. JB, good to see you today. Good to see the other guy. So is your partner, John, is he like still in Europe? What's
he's camera shy.
John is he had planned this vacation with his children before many things happened this year. And he went and is living his best life, and he'll but I think he's returning tomorrow.
Oh, good.
And but yeah, it's he's like Carmen Sandiego in a lot of ways. We don't really know.
Well, yeah. Our joint friend Ava Banash is also apparently took 6 weeks off from her practice as well and was traveling around. So good for Ava. I'm glad she was able to do that with her family. So my kids are all grown, so I don't really have an excuse not to have
grandchildren. Take them.
I put in a leave slip with my two bosses now, and for October 2nd, which I'm hoping is the day I can actually take a day off. October 2nd, after the
2nd. I'm sure there's something happening that day that we must be.
Probably is. I'll probably have to cancel it, but yeah.
It's the day before, 2 days before the most important day of the year.
It's your birthday.
Yeah. Birthday, exactly.
Yeah. I have it on my calendar. That's why I was going to go shopping for you. No.
So let's talk about the Madhavan case. This is really interesting about what's going on here. Late Friday afternoon, we randomly, out of the blue, we get an email from the government. It says, hey, we just filed a notice in a case that has nothing to do with you, done by another lawyer who is trying to do multi-district litigation, MDL litigation, in, oddly enough, the court that our case is in. The government was opposing. Well, it was unclear what they were doing, but they were clearly opposing, and they ultimately filed an opposition. But they just simply were telling the court, hey, there's this other case out there that's a class action that subsumes these other MDL claims. If they win the class action, this MDL is irrelevant because it's not a class action. And in his reply, he also talked about how it came to be and motivations and things like that. We, of course, Aaron and Jesse did a fantastic job of getting literally the same day, as best we could figure it out, a notice to the court, our court, MDL court, about what was going on. From our perspective, we clearly don't want the MDL in this case because we are in where we want to be. We got the posture we want to be in, and we're looking forward to all of our clients getting their green card. So we filed that. The government filed their opposition on Monday. I talked to government counsel. They expect a decision from the MDL court by Friday. And Jess, I don't think the court's going to combine cases and do that. I just don't see that happening. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to comment on other cases or what's going on. I think for our case, I'm secure that filing this as a class action, which is important for everyone to understand. That's different from any other cases last year or any other. Like, we did it different this year. We're filing it for those who are named and for those who are a class. When you're a class, that means that you don't necessarily have to be named, but you would benefit for relief. And part of the reason we did that is because we want to make sure that no visas go to waste. Okay. And that's important, and that they actually take a hard look. The other distinguishing factor in our case, and I don't want to get too legal, is, and it's new and it's different, is we actually think that the way they're deeming a visa as used is wrong. There should never be visas that are wasted, because they could treat them as issued in all of them every year. And so, our case is different, and it's on purpose, and it's for a class. And so I know there's a lot of rumors and anxiety, but I think the focus should be on checking with us, checking our updates, and seeing positive results, because we're seeing those, aren't we, Greg? Right?
Yeah. So I posted, we posted the update form, I don't know, like a week or so ago, and we're getting a decent response on there. But if you haven't filled out that form to tell us where you are, it's hard for us to tell how we're doing. But we, I posted online that about a third of the of the cases, you either reported that your adjustment was approved, or the card production had already happened, and basically that was good on there. And I think that it shows that what we hope in these cases happens is not just that we're going to be able to win on the class, but that all of our, most or all of our plaintiffs will actually get adjudicated before the end of the fiscal year, and that we'll get a class if we can reserve visas for those that are not part of that group. But so far, so good. If you haven't filled out the form, please do so. I've been, seeing on Twitter, it's like, well, I didn't get mine approved, and it's like, okay, well, hopefully you updated us in the form, because if you're complaining on social media that you have, about something I'm posting regarding our data, and you're not actually helping me with the data, then you're not being a good plaintiff.
Let us help you, please.
Yeah, one of the things though that we have learned is that they're on record now, the government that is, in saying that they're on pace to use every available visa. And if that's true, we should get a phone. Maybe they've left a voice message on my phone, because if that's true, we don't know what we're fighting about. That's number one. Number two, if you're a member of our class who filed in 2020, you shouldn't be available. Like, you shouldn't be part of the class.
We definitely have 2020 folks who have not gotten their
which is just crazy. So
it doesn't make a lot of sense what the government's saying, if they, if they're doing what they're saying, why those people haven't been adjudicated yet.
And so, I mean, but we are seeing a type of, this is one of those really unique cases where the government isn't necessarily disagreeing with us really on the main point, which is we want to get rid of these visas, and we're just making sure that they live up to their promises. And in fact, they do things the way they've said they've done them, which is, and we know it doesn't happen, but first in, first out. I mean, I think for anyone who filed in 2020, it's absolutely ridiculous that you haven't received an adjudication.
Now, I will tell you, the really good thing about this whole MDL kerfuffle is the information that was gleaned in the affidavits, the declarations presented by the government in response to the MDL, because these, I don't know if these have been posted anywhere else online, but this is really for the first time they're letting us peek behind the curtain about what's going on with these transfers, what's going on with this, what's going on with that. But they said this is actually really, really important. They had two separate paragraphs, paragraph 8 and 9. They said this in paragraph 8: in establishing EB-3 cutoffs for the July visa bulletin, they projected for India, specifically for India, that there was going to be 12,000 green cards for EB-3 India, and that through June 30th, they had already used 10,232, which only left 1,768 remaining for the rest of the year for India EB-3, and they had on inventory 32,000 Indian AOSs in EB-3. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because in EB-2, which oddly enough was in the next paragraph, not the interior paragraph, they're going to give 51,000 EB-2s to India. 51,000 out of the 260,000 go to EB-2 to India, but they'd only issued 27,877 through June 30th. So they still had 23,000 Indian pending adjustments to do after June 30th, and they had an inventory of 56,000. So what they said here was really note that 51,000 quote could significantly vary based upon use of the fall down provisions. So at this point, that coupled with the issue of the shifting from EB-2 to EB-3, the downgrading, the upgrading, those numbers may vary, but I thought that was the first peek behind the curtain about what they actually have for India pending.
Yeah. And I think what it's also interesting, I don't know if anyone knows, but they also gave us a peek at, projections on the visa bulletin for October, right? Yep. I mean, they said EB-2 is likely to remain where it is for at least a little bit. EB-3, maybe not. But I think the takeaway, though, that they had like this catch-all at the end where they said, if you had a visa available in as of July 2022, you can expect that you will be current next year. And now, what does that mean? But I think
I think I know. I mean, basically, I think what they're saying. Look, if they announce that they have used all the numbers up, then we have a celebration because they did what they were supposed to do and they used up all the numbers on there, and we can't complain about that. What would I imagine would happen is, the State Department is still screwing up, and there is still going to be a rollover of a
family
bunch of
cases
additional numbers next year. It's not going to be probably nearly as big as the this year or last year's, but there will be a significant rollover of family numbers again, and that's going to probably, anybody who doesn't adjust by September 30th that has a pending adjustment application. My guess is that the inventory that rolls over will be enough to cover those people if they can adjudicate everything this year.
Yeah. All right.
They also tried to emphasize that your place in the queue never changes. That it can't be true.
There's a queue?
It can't be true. And they said, once again, we intend to use all available numbers. But it can't be true because of how they explained how files are going back and forth from the service centers. This is in a separate declaration, which was kind of crazy. They talked about this.
There's like 100 queues.
It drives me nuts because, I mean, if there were a queue, we wouldn't have thousands upon thousands of October and November 2020s who are sitting there pulling their hair out and waiting for an adjudication, and we wouldn't have people who filed in September.
How could there be a single queue when every office is going at its own pace?
Well, here's where it's really interesting, because from the declaration of Kenneth Fite, who is the assistant center director for the NBC, and he says really this is interesting. Starting in 2022, so after last year's debacle, USCIS began to transfer visa available I-140 approved 485s from the TSC and the NAC to the NBC, and then from there to field offices for adjudication, not for interview. They were not sending these files to the local office for interviews. They were just sending them, whoever had capacity, they were just sending them randomly out. But then they said, well, but if there was an issue with something, they would send it back to the NBC, who then would send it back to the NSC or the TSC. It is really one of the craziest things I have ever read. It's like some sort of contraption from, I forget that got it right. Those crazy little designs where you end up on the same floor you started on. That's what this is crazy, right?
I mean, I've said that I say this in almost in every case that we have. I just wish we could get. I mean, they've said it, so I'll say it. Like, I feel like we have a value add to them to show them how they could do a better system and reveal holes in the system. And they should really live up to that offer of having a conversation. They should call us. And
you never have a conversation.
Didn't she say, let's talk?
Yeah.
Let's talk.
I mean, in all your cases, have you actually just sort of like had a conference call with the agency to talk about like what would be an approach that would make everybody happy?
Do you know what the one we did was the DOL wage rule, where they had the council on, where they were like,
that was a different agency.
It was not. Yeah, right. I haven't had the pleasure of having USCIS, but maybe there's always hope.
Now, there's this one last thing I want to mention in this affidavit. It's really fascinating to me. Since March 2022, the vast majority of EB-45s have been adjudicated at field offices.
Yep.
Wow. That basically is saying our service centers aren't doing jack squat on adjudication.
That's why you see those processing times have gone down from 25 to 18 months, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think,
because that's what they're doing. I just thought it was absolutely fascinating as part of this process to get these declarations, because it gives us a window which we never would have had without litigation. Why do you litigate? Because you get stuff like this. Now, I will tell you that back in the day, when I didn't have all this gray hair, and we actually had liaison meetings with the old INS and the early USCIS, we would actually go to the service centers, sit down, meet with adjudicators, the service, and we watched, we could literally walk through it, and that's all opaqued out. We don't know, and now we know.
Yeah,
and now we know at least a little bit. Anyway, thank you to the government for getting us that information without us even having to ask. It was really great. So we also, everybody knows in Madhavan that we did amend the complaint on Friday. Aaron is not with us today. We excuse his presence because he is drafting the preliminary injunction to file this Friday. In this case, he's also getting the work done for the DV case. So, I didn't put up the litigation name, but obviously we're talking about Madhavan as part of this. We've been talking about this for the last X minutes. So just go ahead and take a look at that.
I think Louie's not here.
And tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Wait, no, is it tomorrow or Wednesday?
Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Tomorrow is Wednesday. I'm sorry.
At least on the planet, at least in this universe.
Yeah, it feels like Monday still to me.
Tomorrow is Wednesday, and at 6 p.m., everybody of our clients have been sent the link to Zoom. I'll see if we can resend that because I did put 2023 on there. We're typing too fast. And we'll talk to everybody, answer your questions. But it's really going to be basically what we talked about today. But we'll have the wonderful presence of Aaron with us as well, and maybe we'll have a decision on the MDL case. Jesse, one thing about MDL, isn't MDL like for discovery, just so that typically it was designed by Congress basically. If you've got a whole bunch of normally product liability cases popping up all over the country, and the company doesn't want to answer 70 different discovery requests from 70 different plaintiffs and of all the same stuff, you bring it all together and you do all that work. Am I mistaken about that? Am I looking at it too narrowly?
Yeah, there's different ways to use it. I mean, again, I don't want to comment on the strategy here. I think it, in some ways, bringing these types of cases that share similar facts and scenarios, that's fine. Go for it. I think for our purposes, again, we're bringing a class, and that's another effective way. The only time I've actually had a real hands-on approach with MDL is in the public charge litigation, where there were cases filed by states and nonprofit organizations, and they wanted to get discovery on how that public charge rule that President Trump was promulgating, and there were cases everywhere. And in fact, the states and parties decided not to go with an MDL. But yeah, I mean, again, it just shows you that when you litigate, everybody likes certainty, and litigation provides you the opportunity to treat similar cases differently. Class action is one of them. A group case is one of them, maybe MDL. So we chose class action. I think that's the appropriate choice for us and our clients. But yeah,
So good. So there we are. That's our EB wastage. We want to talk about our DV 2022 litigation. This is Bou Jabbour. I don't know how to say it. Bou Jabbour. In Spanish, it would be Bou Jabbour, but it's more like Portuguese. Aaron will correct me. Anyway, the DV 2022 litigation, we are preparing our motions in that case as well to file, to move forward, to get a decision from the court, preliminary injunction. And that should be, I think it's this week, We're also planning on filing that. It might be early next week. I forget which day.
And if I can just jump in, we have.
Yes. What news do you have for us, young man?
Our law firm had this. We have our Preston and Husu case, DV 2022, in the Eastern District of Kentucky, and we're filing our dispositive motions tomorrow. One of the big issues that has been created in all of the cases has been, let's back up for a second. So in 2021, the Department of State said, hey, when they filed this, and actually a lot of these cases, they said, listen, we actually schedule everyone by regional number, and that's the way we do it. And in 2021 and 2020, it didn't matter because, in fact, the issues in those cases where they weren't doing anything. This year, they've decided to actually schedule people, but they've now changed the narrative. And at least in our cases, when they went to dismiss our case, they said, hey, we go by number. And we knew that wasn't true. and I know it's not true.
Actually, it can't be true, right?
And I actually had the opportunity to depose the director of the KCC, and I don't know if it was related or not, but after that, they filed an errata in every single diversity visa 2022 case and said, we don't go by, and now it's a 3-factor model, but we don't really know how it's done. And I think that's leaving a lot of people out there who are waiting a 2NL, which is an interview notice. I think they're struggling mightily to figure it out, as are we. And so the judges are going to have to rule. The judges are just going to have to rule about, how things are going.
Well, good luck with that case in Kentucky. We remain confident with our case as well. And again, Judge Maida has just kind of
the easiest way to make these cases go away is just to use them all up.
Yeah, and if they announce tomorrow, we used all the visas.
It's like, okay, great.
That's it. That's all there is.
I will say, people need to appreciate that possibility. I don't think it's probable, but it's possible. But again, it goes to show you that you can win through litigation simply by calling them on it. Yeah.
Calling them on it. Speaking of calling them on it, Greg, we're going to be calling USCIS on something, aren't we?
Yeah. So this is a case that it's like one of these things where it's like, it was accidental, I think, that I was when I was looking through that. I always look, Congress passes things. A lot of times I just sort of do the little search and find to see if there's anything immigration in any of these bills. And I looked to see in the Ukraine bill that passed in May, a couple weeks later, actually, if there was anything immigration related in there. And most of the time there's not, but lo and behold, there was in this one, but it was sort of a little stealthy. It was basically there's a section in that bill, section 401, I think, that says that Ukrainians who come in through the Uniting for Ukraine program, which, by the way, there was an announcement this morning that they have used up all 100,000 numbers for that, which is good, although it would be nice if the administration might consider enlarging that number. But it says in there that they are to receive the same benefits as refugees that enter under a section of law of Section 207. So I was thinking through what that means, and it means, and their immigration can be considered a benefit, as well as their financial benefits and things like that refugees get. One of those benefits that's pretty damn important to a lot of folks is the ability to work. And USCIS has been has not made any changes to its policies since May, when this law passed, and this law was effective immediately. And they are still mandating that Ukrainians file for an employment authorization document. Well, one of the benefits that a refugee gets is that they don't have to file for an employment authorization document. They don't have to file a 765 to be allowed to work. As soon as they clear CBP when they arrive in the United States, they are authorized to work. And the way it works for refugees is they get 90 days on their I-94 when they come into the U.S. that they're automatically authorized to work on that. And then there's a handbook called the M274 for I-9s. And that says that after the 90 days, a refugee can work based on a social security number and a driver's license combination. They can get an EAD if they want, but they don't have to. They can just work with those documents. And that makes a huge difference to a lot of people as far as their success in the United States. Now, one thing that, I had been a little bit second guessing myself as far as whether the bill did what I thought it did in the last couple of days as we were thinking about this. And I called Jesse up to kind of talk me off the ledge on that. But I did find something that I haven't talked to you guys about this morning that I think enhances the case in there, which is because of a faux pas a mistake that I made on Twitter in response to a very good CBS reporter who was talking about the fact that a lot of these people are going to be in limbo when it comes to their permanent status next year. What kind of path they have. They don't have any kind of path to a green card. And originally, the way I was reading it was like, well, refugees get to apply for a green card after a year. So Jesse and I think we were talking about that yesterday. It's like maybe, and this report is like, did you read the last line of the bill on there? It says no green cards for them. And it's like, oh, you are right. However, that helps our case because it does show that they thought about immigration.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I was thinking. It was like, if maybe they were only talking about HHS administered benefits because this wasn't an HHS funding section of the bill, but they had this listed on there. But they do specifically say no green card benefit, which presumably means all other immigration benefits are on the table, including authorized to work incident to status, which is one of the biggest ones that refugees get.
Well, I think you're right. I think it does enhance our case, and it actually speaks more about, there was a reason they chose the word refugees. That's not a new, term that they put, and then they also know that, listen, we don't want to give them permanent residency, but what do we want to do with, what are we trying to achieve? What is the intent behind that language, right? It has to be that they wanted them to be able to come in and work and not have to pay for it, right? And taking 41 or whatever $1 million and then not adjudicating these people's work authorization applications is not acceptable. So I could not be more behind this. And not that we have time to work on this, but like this is like, I don't want to say it's a crime of passion. Sometimes that's what my family would tell me because like I take places when I shouldn't. But I really do. This is really one of those things. I think we can really do a lot of good. Not that we don't in every case, but I think we do a lot of good. And this is exactly, again, I'm beating that horse, but give us a call because you got to read the statute. I don't. Yeah,
you guys know that. I mean, a friend who's a really good, who's a good friend, and did a reach out. On this issue. I reached out to him yesterday, and and apparently, and we've reached out a number of times actually to the agency, both on social media as well as through private channels, and there's been, zero response back except to say we'll look into it. No response back. But apparently, they are like, well, maybe you should make a formal, inquiry, send a formal letter explaining what your position is on this. And it's like, no, you guys had this. This has been the law. This has been the law for 10 weeks on there. You guys should be on this. It shouldn't require some random immigration lawyer out there to point this out to you, even though we did point it out to them in multiple ways and been trolling them for weeks on this issue. And we're going. This was the person who told us, passed this message on. It was like, well, we're trying to prevent litigation. And there, it's like,
no, you're not.
And first of all, you could just actually call us or contact, even text us on there. We're not that hard to reach. And then second of all, it's like this shouldn't even be a negotiation. The law said you were supposed to do this. So why are we having to get into threatening mode?
Now, if you are Ukrainian and you want to sign up, just go to the website and follow the United for Ukraine EAD litigation.
Yeah. And again, not to talk about past achievements, but we saw something similar for L2 spousal visas and E2 spousal visas, where for 25 years they said that these spouses were not allowed to work incident to status, which is. And, this is another instance where we don't have 25 years for these people before the agency gets it right. I mean, these are people who came in, they've lost, their lives, unfortunately, not all of them, but, just their personal possessions and businesses. These are smart people. These are educated people. These are people who need to be helping us with our labor issues in the United States. I mean, so everybody wins. I just don't understand. They've already been vetted. They've already been processed. They should be working. And taking $400
in a lot of cases, I mean, they really have to work. It's like we may take it for granted, but it's like they still have mortgages to pay. They still have all these things to pay back in their home country. They have all these financial obligations that didn't go away just because they left.
They have children.
Well, Jeff, you bring up a good point.
They have spouses that are in the military. I mean, a lot of them they're severe financial pressure right now.
Yeah, and the people that signed up and the great thing about this is Americans stepped up. They signed affidavits of support for people they'd never met. I mean, it was really remarkable. echoing my friend David Beer. I mean, this is how immigration should work. Americans want more immigrants to come here. They can sponsor them. This has been a remarkable outpouring. But you brought up this idea of the L's and E2s. That statute, which said this, is less clear than this statute. And
I can't confirm or deny that, but no, I'm just kidding. No, but this one, no, I mean, when seriously, when Greg's pointed my attention to it, I think everyone has read it. Maybe there's been a little bit of, but I'm pretty, again, when Congress uses that pen to use the word refugees and then also takes away certain benefits, they've made a decision of what they want. Okay. So I just don't, I don't know. I don't see what we're fighting over, but we need to fight. So people need to work.
Okay, one last update of the EB-5 litigation. I'm handling the Jain case, which is the 526 litigation. We are in the process now of preparing our relevant motions in that case with the court and moving forward just to update you on that particular piece of litigation. We need to have Matt Galati on when Matt's back to talk about that as well. All right, let's go over to some of these questions that we have. A lot of questions today. Vishnu, great. And Vishnu was on here early. He was up early on this, so thank you very much. He only says hello to Greg. He doesn't care about JB or Chuck. That's fine. Robbie Saka, everybody give the current speed of whatever estimated period end of the year, end of the quarter. I don't think they're going to move the dates. I mean, one thing they told us in that declaration is they have way more files on file than they have visas for this year, especially on EB3s. So there can be no movement on EB3s. And if next year, and they're not going to get the same numbers, let's say it's half the numbers, right? So a little less than half the numbers, they're not going to move next year either. I mean, they can't. If they've got 23,000 EB3s on file and they're only going to get 7 next year.
Well, I think what the unknown is how many people have more than one I-140.
Well, these are 45s. They're saying these are 45s that are pending.
Right. So, all right. But and some people have more than one pending too.
They do, but not the numbers that have how many I-140s are pending, which are astronomical.
Right. Right. You're right about that.
Now, but here's the confusion about that. Let's say you got 145 pending, but isn't immigration like 6 months behind on supplement J's or on substitution or downgrades? That's what's unclear from their memo. Are they really up to date on this stuff? Is those real numbers?
Yeah, and they never know. And one of the reasons why it was like people might say, well, how did they end up with so many more adjustments than they have numbers available when they knew in October how many they were going to have available for the year? And part of that is because they don't really know how many derivatives are going to file on there. So it's never sort of it's always a forecast at the beginning about where to move the dates in order to get the yield that they want. So obviously they were a little off.
All right. So amended plaintiffs are part of our communication email list. We'll send another email out this evening confirming tomorrow's meeting at 6 o'clock. What about Go? I'm sure Jesse, like me, is beginning to reread all the briefs to get ready for oral argument. Good morning, everyone. Any updates on HB second lottery? Great question. Oddly enough, immigration still has not announced that they've reached the cap. Why'd they announce last year? Because we sued them last year. That's what I mean. Again, evidence that litigation actually forces the government to respond and act. But no, and oddly enough, Greg, I don't think anybody at AILA's asked. So what we'll do, I'll follow up with AILA's government affairs person and see if they can find out what the numbers look like. We'll couch it in the terms.
I'm pretty certain there's going to be a second lottery.
It has to be a second lottery. I mean,
probably a third too.
Oh well, certainly a second. Prince Vlogs 1/3 approval from Tuit from Siskin. Is that U.S. content using random approvals? Well, these are. I don't know what a random approval is. Immigration's got your case number because we sued them. They're looking at going, where is this case? We know from past experience they track all these cases down. They're going to report them to the judge as part of our motions. So yeah, I attribute it to the filing of the case. Okay. Is it true they will not accept new applicant first-time DACA applicant? That is still true, Zori. I know there's a TikTok lawyer saying DACA's coming back in August. It was kind of crazy. It's like, whoa, take a Xanax or something, man. But No,
Well, do we know when this reg? I mean, this reg is going final.
Well, they said in 2 months, a month and a half ago, in their report on upcoming regulatory changes that it was scheduled, and that would be August. So that's August is a month with 31 days. Is all I can tell you.
I don't know anything about the regulation or anything else. I will put a Diet Coke that you will have the same states that have been filing all these lawsuits that will be immediately in court for an injunction on that reg. There's that. They better. So if I'm the agency or maybe an intervener, you better be geared up and lawyered up to fight that reg.
Well, I think they are. I mean, I'll give them creds. They did it the right way.
They did.
They did it the right way. They followed the APA. I don't, if Judge Tanton in Texas is going to stop this one, it's going to be a very creative reading of the Administrative Procedures Act.
Of course, we do have people who are representatives in Washington who could solve this, but
don't count on that happening. Well, again, the representatives,
Inflation Reduction Act.
the representatives have solved it. The House did solve it. The problem is in the Senate.
Yeah,
10 Republican senators with a soul.
Mm-hmm. Good
luck with that one. Thank you, Marsha Blackburn, dumbest member of the Senate. Bo's great. Happy. Okay, so we got Mr. Ango de la Hermeth. I think that was pretty good. Right? Still stuck in NSC. Anything can be done. Well, based upon what we read, is they're sending basically most of the approvals since March are adjudications at offices, local offices. If your case is still at the Nebraska Service Center, probably not getting adjudicated at this moment because it's not out getting adjudicated. So the question is, where are you in the line? Where
do we know that that's the case, that the service centers are not actually that?
Well,
everything
they just use the word the vast majority.
Right.
So
they might be keeping an inventory.
I think they are. I mean, again, I think, everybody out there is, I see this all the time. Doesn't matter what, everyone's like, there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening because the only thing that's left to happen is the approval. So like your life will change in an instant. And so when you say there's nothing happening, that of course there's nothing happening. There's only thing left to happen is that approval. So, I mean, I don't want to anger you. I'm trying to make you actually understand that the last thing to happen will be that lifetime change of an approval, and you need to be kind of comfortable with that uncertainty.
Yeah, there's probably I mean, we actually know from the fee regulations how much time that they take on these things, and it's probably 30 to 60 minutes.
I think it's 98 minutes.
98 minutes.
It's like an hour.
So that's a lot of that. I mean, that's during the whole course of the thing, and a lot of it at the end is sort of just doing a final review to see what's in there and potentially an RFE if there's something that they discover that's missing.
I'm trying to think, how does that take 98 minutes? When I walk into my local office and the interview lasts 15 minutes and the officers got 15-minute interviews for an hour for the whole day.
Right, but they've done some kind of they've done some kind of checklist on the that they're checking.
It's probably all of the work takes 98 minutes, not the final adjudication.
Listen, I think that the takeaway for me and for the people listening should be that we have it on record. They want to use all the visas. Theoretically, they know who filed when. And if you filed in 2020, in my mind, you should feel okay. Nervous, sure, everyone's gonna be nervous. I mean, I'm nervous talking on this camera, but you're gonna be in a position for success. If you filed in 2021 and 2022, you necessarily should not be adjudicated according to the government's own information, right? And so we all know that there's not a strict line, but again, I think we have to take their word in some ways that they are gonna do what they can, and it's our job to make sure that they live up to that promise.
Right. I do think that if they use up all the numbers and you're still, it's a musical chairs and you're stuck at the end standing because you didn't get one of the numbers and they used up all the numbers, that you are very, very likely to be able to get a number early next year when the rollover happens. So I wouldn't, and it really depends on using up the inventory. If they leave 80,000 on the table like they did last year, a lot of people are screwed. But if they use up all the numbers like they say they're going to, and it seems like they're doing a better job, then even if you don't get a number by September 30th and they've used up all the numbers, you can feel pretty good that you're going to be in decent shape for next year.
And let me make my own projection, right? So let's say that our case, we're going to file the PI this week, and the government's going to then turn around and file a response. But they're going to file a declaration with that response, and they're going to provide updated information. And so we're going to have, through our own efforts, better data in about 2 to 3 weeks from now. So we'll be able to, have a better understanding of where they sit. And the data we have right now says we're going to use all the visas. So
here's a great question. Is there a chance of increased number of reserve visas and go? Oddly enough, coincidentally, I will be arguing that exact point at oral argument. If I didn't think there was a chance, I wouldn't waste money on a plane ticket to Washington, D.C. By the way, Jesse, that's my part of the argument, I think.
I know. Well, just so everybody in the world knows, we need to make sure by August 12th, we have the 30,000 attorneys who are arguing this case sit down and actually agree to a schedule about who's arguing what and for how long. So,
by the way, the court did not give us a set oral argument time, did they?
They actually said, you guys come up with a proposal. From what I understand at the DC circuit, they're pretty liberal. They'll just hold you up there if they want information from you. So, but they asked for our proposal, and the plaintiff's attorneys are going to have to come
hopefully
together.
We'll have a call by next week, and we can get that done.
Yeah, Gomez had a call, so we kind of know where we have in terms of.
But you didn't invite Acker? You're welcome.
I know. Well, we wanted to make sure we didn't even know who was arguing, and then so.
Clearly, I am. So it's be fun.
I'm arguing.
And you are arguing. And Jesse's arguing. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have fun time. It's going to be a blast. I wonder who the government is sending. I'm curious.
Joshua Press? I don't know.
You got me. Josh is a good guy.
Yeah.
Is your priority to force us to consume all visas? Our priority is both.
Yep.
We want to get our clients approved and use all the visas. We can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Totally. I mean, they're not. Those are not inconsistent.
No, they're completely safe.
And we'll be perfectly happy if they use up all the numbers and the reserving doesn't have to happen.
Exactly right.
Totally.
If USCIS uses all available visas, but in no order, then this is. I assume this is. Well, again, their most recent declaration is we do these in order, and we will have a decision for the end of the year. And if we have evidence, which we do, if they're not doing them in order, well, then we're going to have to hold somebody accountable for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't. There's not like a lot of these questions. They sit well. They it's like three hypotheticals on top of each other. Like if the world were to end and they didn't get to my priority date, what would you do? And it's like let's stick with what we have. I think we have solid ground to think that they're surging. They've taken away a third of people in just over 2.5 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's take that victory and let's go and take it like one day at a time, because I really do think that we're in a good position right now. Doesn't mean it's going to stay that way, but let's take what we have and run with it.
I do want to go back to this question too. We want to be clear. We have been clear from the very beginning exactly what we are doing with our litigation. And that is these two prongs. Do our best to get our plaintiffs adjudicated and to get all the visas used. I mean, there's nothing surprised anybody who's a plaintiff in our case.
I will say the long running argument that they should never waste and be in a position to waste visas ever again is a statutory argument that I like. But that could also be a game changer for years, for the future as well.
Right. So if because it's rare that they use all the visas. It's rare, actually. That's why when these bills are introduced in Congress saying we're going to recapture all the unused visas, there's hundreds of thousands of them. This is why. So that's why I think this litigation is so vitally important. Let's see. DV-22 plaintiffs assigned to Abu Dhabi, still waiting. Yeah.
ABD is a really difficult consulate. They're one of the consulates that really took an eye away from DV, and they took a hard look at employment-based and family-based immigrant visas. And the other thing with Abu Dhabi is they got a lot of the spillover from other regions, and they definitely have not followed a consistent process. So
no. What's going on with DACA? Emily, this is not a DACA call, but when we know, we'll let you know. Does someone from USCIS cut it to get a number to say they are looking into our cases? The government now has a lawyer assigned to the case, and we'll be updating our clients tomorrow on exactly what's going on. Zapar DV 2022, 18,000 embassy request to be transferred. How long does it be scheduled? That's hopefully before September 30th.
The biggest question what's missing right there is where are you at? And if you've already been ready for scheduling, KCC is not where you go. You go to a consulate for transfer. So,
yeah. All right. Jack Sparrow's back. What do you mean? Multi-dimensional lift of Q. Oh,
yeah.
Less in first out something. I don't know what that means, but
Jack Sparrow's got some acronyms today. Some of his questions that I'm like, what's that?
Did you get a chance to read? Yes, in fact, we talked about those exhibits already in this video, Bo. It's right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Great days updating what their plans. Awesome. Any other patterns here? No, we don't know where the adjudication took place. The foreign national likely doesn't know where the adjudication took place. So it's impossible for us to track that. But what we do know is the vast majority of approvals are at local offices. So let's take that for what it's worth. Yeah, this is the whole EB3, EB2 interfiler. So there may be a bunch of people sitting in EB3 that are also EB2, but because it's 45s, wouldn't they be giving the court singular information? Surely their database says, hey, this person has both of them. We're going to put them here for now because it's a faster line. I don't know. Or that's the last one they asked for.
My understanding is that they are moving people without the request to the category where they can get the adjudication most quickly, which is good.
That is perhaps the one question I would like to ask as a follow-up to those declarations, because that's unclear in the declarations how that actually is working. Recovery on lost DVs. There is no bill pending passing Congress that's going to recover the DVs.
Although we didn't talk about legislation.
No, we didn't.
There was immigration may rear its head in the next couple of days in Congress, maybe not in a good way. Definitely not in a good way on this Inflation Reduction Act, which is the climate bill, that there may be an effort afoot by Republicans to start introducing immigration amendments and forcing Democrats to take votes on things that make certain people up for re-election uncomfortable, such as border provisions. So the only reason I'm mentioning that is the big the big move that Schumer could take to stop that is what screwed up all the legal immigration provisions in Build Back Better, which is the Senate parliamentarian. So I think the way forward for him on that is to basically say, after the parliamentarian blesses this amendment, we'll consider it. We're not going to consider it before that. And we know the parliamentarian doesn't believe immigration should ever be in any of those bills. So that's probably not going to happen. But if it did, he should fire her immediately because of what she did in Build Back Better, which is taking out the legal immigration provisions that Democrats liked. And if she allows the ones that Republicans like in there, that's a bad thing.
Somebody asked, what are the next steps for people who changed employer, not filed perm, or never filed with old employer, their current PD is current? Honestly, I have no idea off the top of my head what that even means. I mean, that sounds to me like a consult. That for me. Any of the mandamus litigants received approval from Texas Service Center. We'll let you know tomorrow night in our call when we go through that in detail. Let's see. H-1B abuse. We talked about that already. Go plaintiffs, make ready. Look, nothing is happening in September. Nothing. Yep. There would be no DV movement on 20 or 21 at all until next year, probably.
Yeah.
So
Well, just to explain on that, that's how long it's going to probably take the judges to issue a decision.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's not. That's the main issue. We make the arguments and then we wait a couple months until the judges tell us.
We don't know the logic behind a transfer, who was transferred, the order was transferred. All we know is that a lot were transferred. That's literally all we know. Another good question to ask in a deposition. Samil, is there any info about documents of DV 2023? Not that I'm aware of.
The only thing I'm aware of is that, there's people are just, kind of disputing about that the pilot program was not supposed to extend to 23. I would say it's not in your, it's in your best interest to proceed and submit all your documents with your DS-260.
Here's Jack. How do you guys stress manage, keep going on litigation, give us even caustic tweets, social media updates? It's the red pill, not the blue one, right? That's I don't know who Jack Sparrow is.
Whack.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know if you heard, but Jack Sparrow apparently has erectile dysfunction.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. It came up in my social media feed. How long different to talk to me? I've heard it can be under review. U.S. citizen son, parents with legal entry. That, depends on where you are in the United States. You can go online to the USCIS.gov website, look up processing times, put in 485, family member, and the office, and it will tell you the lie they're currently sharing about how long it takes. Yeah. Atlanta, for example, is 24 months, which we know is not true. I mean, it's like 8 to 10 months, but
if they say 24 months, then when it's done in 8 to 12 months, you're thinking how great they did.
Exactly. It's the Scotty version of processing cases. Well, Scotty, why you always tell me when it's 4 hours to fix the lithium crystals when it's only 2? And well, Captain, how else am I able to maintain my reputation as a miracle worker? Yeah, the appropriations bill is not going to capture DV visas. It's just not going to happen. The only thing that may pass in the DV bill is the changes to the Child Status Protection Act, which are awesome across the board. Great.
I have been getting a lot of questions about recapture stuff. That the House passes stuff all the time, but unless there's 10 Republicans that are willing to vote for something, it ain't happening. And that's the latest with the DHS appropriations bill that had those provisions in there on recapture. They are, depending on your perspective, you may like or dislike them, but they're going nowhere because there are not 10 Republicans that are willing to vote for any of that language at this point.
Arun, again, this goes back to the same issue. We're seeking approval of all our clients, regardless of their priority date. We also know for a fact that immigration is approving cases with various priority dates and not in case order. Great example of that. We recently had an Indian national that we filed as 45 in March, and it was approved in June. And his priority date was not 2014.
Wow.
So, we know they're not doing that. So, no, that's what we're seeking. My embassy recent invitation for the whole month of September. In my case, not among those schedules. Please do something for us since time is running out. Please send an email to Aaron about your case so that we can track that and find out what's going on. Full-time primary H-1B my current employer, part-time concurrent H-1B my previous employer, my 45 my previous employer. Cool. Again, there's a lot of tweets here from you guys. That is a consult. Those kind of level of answers is a consult. Does the DV-22 case still have a clause? Of course we have a chance because they've already said they anticipate using 45 of the 55, which means there are visas to reserve.
Yeah.
Punto.
Can I remind Chuck and I have had this conversation many times. If they actually use up all the numbers, then the odds are pretty good that everybody that's waiting is going to get a number because they do not. I mean, it's possible that they leave leftover numbers at the end if they, if they use up all the numbers that some people don't qualify, but they've been doing this for 32 years. They have a pretty good idea of how many that they need to, how many people need to be selected in the lottery to yield the number that they want. They don't deliberately go way over. It sounds like they do based on the way case numbers go, but they know a lot of people don't end up applying. But if they use up all 55,000, the overwhelming majority of people that are trying to get a DV number will get their number.
That's true. Somebody asked, why are you not considering any PD or PD? I don't think that word means what you mean.
Priority date? Why isn't the prior? I think that question is, why isn't the priority date the most controlling factor for a 485 adjudication?
Well, technically it should be.
Yeah,
but
if it was first in, first out, it would be.
Yeah, but we know it's not.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, if somebody just applied for an adjustment last week and they have an old priority date, I think it's sort of a combination of what your priority date is and when you filed the adjustment application.
Yeah, I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think if you filed in October 2020 and you had a 2014 date, you shouldn't be sitting there. That's my view.
I agree. Any time can help DV 2020 transfer cases. Again, you need to be doing it. We're not your lawyers to move your case. We've given you instructions on how to do that. Moo 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 moo. I love the names here. My U.S. file for employer current employer is unaware of it. Oh, we won't tell them. In the form. Wait a second. You lied on your H-1B form? Well, you didn't sign that, but your wife, your spouse, filed a 539 and lied about a pending AOS? Yeah. My dear, you have a problem.
Yeah, you have a problem.
You need to talk to your lawyer.
Yep.
All right. The point is, again, we're trying to get all our plaintiffs done. Oh, a third of plaintiffs approved means 50, with 50 approvals, exactly. And then last, Prince Vlog. That's prorated out because we don't have the updates from a number of people yet. Right. U.S. has approved 2014 case anyway and use all the visas to reduce average process. Well, great. I mean, they should. Yeah. Again, immigration took too many cases, it seems, because they're supposed to only be allowing filings that they can do within that fiscal year at the beginning of the year. In the fiscal year, we got this many numbers. We're going to move the date so that we can accept each quarter a certain number of cases. So we're constantly doing cases. Somebody screwed up. So, all right. It's time to end our broadcast. We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. For all our Madhavan clients, we're going to see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. And the rest of you, I'll be live tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern. Greg, are you live this week on Facebook?
No. Well, I'll be tomorrow night with the plaintiffs.
All right. And Jesse, do you have your own Facebook show that you do yet?
Do you want to know a secret?
Yeah.
I've never had a Facebook account. Ever.
What?
Never. Yeah, never. I've never had an account.
You have a grandmother?
No, I just never. You know what it was? I was with the government. No, you know what it was? I was totally. I get nervous sometimes because I grew up in Boston and I have friends and I knew I was working for the Department of Justice and I'm like, if I sign up and I didn't have children and that's what you use it for now, I guess, whatever. I thought that my career at Justice would be tarnished or trashed because one of my friends would post something. So I never signed up. So I don't have it and I never have. So I don't even have Facebook.
How do you communicate with your parents then?
My mother calls me incessantly. I probably have 4 voice messages from her now.
How do you track the crazy stuff your mom is doing? Like I track what my mom likes. The craziest mom.
So my wife will absolutely kill me for saying this. So I'll just say it out to the world. What she does and finds out about information that we need or whatever, we think someone from high school or whatever, she creep books. So she'll have like her friend's account and she'll go in and just find people. She'll be like, you'll never believe what X is doing. And I'll be like, how did you find that out? She's like, oh, I just used Nicole's account. So there's ways around it, but I've never done that. I actually, I don't Insta. I don't TikTok. I'm barely on Twitter. You can tell, like when I do things on Twitter, I shouldn't because I get too angry.
No. You're doing just fine on Twitter. And are you on with Britt Simon this week? Do you have a Britt Simon?
No. I'm trying to. I gotta do our dispositive motions in Preston.
Maybe we should go on what's the president's social media company?
Oh,
President Trump's company.
Oh God,
Truth Social. Maybe we should go on there.
Truth Social. That's what it is.
Yeah, I like to remain like I'm the other one, right? That's why I'm the other one because I'm anonymous.
All right, you guys have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.